choices for you and your family. Cook it, give it. You'll love when you live it. L-I-V-E, live it.
Welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at community hospitals and wellness centers, and I'd like to welcome you all to Live It Autumn Harvest. Today I have Jessica Struble with me. She's a registered nurse here at the hospital, and she works in the radiology department. And she also has some special certifications. She's also a yoga instructor. A high-level yoga instructor, from what I understand. Is it RYT 200 registered yoga and trainer? Oh, you say it.
I'm a registered yoga teacher.
Registered yoga
Yes.
teacher.
Yeah.
I want to say instructor for some reason, but registered yoga teacher with over 200 hours of training. So yeah, I'm excited to have her here today to show you how to make two different plant-based recipes, a soup, which is autumn minestrone soup, and a salad, which is my personal favorite salad. It is a honey mustard Brussels sprout slaw. So we have a lot of chopping to do today, so we're going to get started on our chopping. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a garlic clove. And I'm going to take a couple garlic cloves, and we're going to get our garlic chopped. So we're actually going to chop our garlic for both of these recipes right now. So one of my favorite strategies for chopping garlic is I take my whole side of the chef knife and I just hit it against the garlic clove. There you go. And then I take off the peeling, if it comes off, and I take off the hard, like the end of it. So the reason why I always chop my garlic first in a recipe, there's a phytonutrient called allium in garlic, and it develops and becomes stronger as it's exposed to oxygen. So I always start my garlic first so that it has time to develop that phytonutrient. So I'm just going to give it a quick chop, and then I'm going to set it aside. So the three that I have are going to go in the soup, and then the one that Jessica is chopping, I'm going to have her put in a bowl on the far end for our slaw. So we're doing a homemade honey mustard vinaigrette for the slaw, and it has a little bit of garlic to flavor it.
Is this good?
That's perfect. Looks great. She's doing a great job already.
So from my experience watching MasterChef,
Yeah.
I thought you never put raw garlic in anything.
Okay. Well, and it can be a potent flavor if you're not used to garlic especially. But it's, yeah, you can, and it actually some of the health benefits can stay if you don't cook it. So, but that's why there's only one garlic clove there and not a whole bunch of garlic cloves, because it can be a very strong flavor. And for some people it can kind of give them heartburn, but if you don't use a ton, it should be okay. And if you are sensitive to it, you could try like a roasted garlic or garlic powder in this dressing as well. So I have a couple carrots here. I have one already peeled. I'm going to peel another one. We're going to get our carrots chopped for the soup now. So if you don't peel your carrots, make sure that you scrub them really well. You don't necessarily have to peel root vegetables. I guess I usually do though. So the carrots are, yep, you're doing perfect. I don't even have to instruct her. She already knows what she's doing. So we just need them chopped into bite-sized circles. So Jessica's is a little bit skinnier than mine, so mine has kind of a fat base. So I'm actually going to take the whole thing and I'm going to cut it in half. With the soup, you want all of your vegetables cut into kind of uniform pieces so that they all cook evenly. So sometimes it's a good idea to get some of the prep work out of the way when you're doing soups and things like that, so that you don't have some of the ingredients starting to burn while you're cooking them. So the carrots and onions are the first ingredients that are going to go in the soup. And so I'm going to turn on our pan right now, or our stock pot. So you need a pretty big stock pot. And I'm going to drizzle about a tablespoon of olive oil. So some healthy monounsaturated fats in there to cook the onion and the carrots. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw my carrots in. And then the onion, which our wonderful staff in the catering department has already chopped for us. I know you guys have seen me chop onions many times by now. And like I said, we have a lot of chopping to do in this recipe, so I'll show you how to do some things that maybe you haven't chopped before. So I'm going to come over here and steal your carrots. Looks
Are they too
perfect.
big?
Nope, that's perfect. And you know, it doesn't really matter. You know, cooking doesn't have to be, I mean, actually, I think yours look better than mine do.
You're just saying that.
It doesn't have to be perfect, so. There you go. All right, so these are going to cook for a few minutes, about 3 until they start to soften. And then we're going to add our garlic, and we're only going to cook our garlic for about a minute in here, and then we're going to start adding some of our other ingredients. So we can get started chopping some of our other ingredients that are going to go in this soup. So the thing that I like about this soup, again, this show is called Autumn Harvest. So most of the vegetables that you see here, you could go to the farmer's market, which happens to be going on tonight, which is it's at Thursday nights and Tuesday mornings. So tonight I believe it's from 3 or 3:30 until dusk, which I don't know what that is, like 6? So they usually wrap up around 6. So I actually think I'm going to head out there tonight and get some of these ingredients to make this at home. So we're going to put some potatoes in here. We need about 2.5 cups of potatoes in our soup, and we have some Yukon Gold potatoes. So we just need to dice these up into kind of small dice. A trick that I do is I like to cut a flat surface, and then I put it down and then use it to make slices into my potato. And then I kind of make like matchsticks like that with all of the slices. And then I go through and cut the opposite direction to dice them. You could experiment with adding different types of potatoes to this recipe. I probably would not do sweet potatoes in this recipe because we're also going to use a butternut squash, so the flavors, I think it'd be a little too much of the sweet, unless you really like sweet, and then add the, you could add sweet potatoes if you wanted. How you doing over there? Looking good. Look at those matchsticks.
I'm struggling.
She's doing a great job. So you can see there's some color starting to develop in the onions. They're starting to turn a little bit brown. I think I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic. So that's 3 garlic cloves chopped. And you want to be really careful once you add your garlic because that's going to brown easily and it can kind of develop a bitter flavor if it gets too brown. So usually when you start to smell the garlic, it becomes very aromatic. And when you start to smell it, that means it's done. So then you can start adding your liquid. And then we're going to add our other ingredients. So it's about a minute after you add the garlic that you add the stock and the tomatoes. So I'm starting to smell it, so I'm going to go ahead and add our vegetable stock. So to control the sodium, it's probably better if you can find like a low sodium vegetable stock to add. So again, this is 6 cups of vegetable stock. So I like to start adding my liquids so that they can start heating, and then we'll just add the vegetables as we get them chopped. It's taking forever. All 6 cups. And of course, if you like a thicker soup, you can add less stock, and if you like a thinner soup, you can add more. Okay, and then I also added 1 can of just plain old diced tomatoes. And if you can, try to find the no salt added variety, again, so that you can control how much salt is in your recipe. Okay, so that's going to start heating. And now we're going to start measuring out our potatoes. So it looks like you have a lot over there. We can put those in. So again, you need about 2½ cups chopped.
I won't pick any up off the floor.
We'll appreciate that. So that's 1 cup, perfect. So she did 2 potatoes over there, so I am going to assume that this is about a cup as well. And then I'll quickly chop 1 more potato to go in here too. Potatoes kind of get a bad reputation as a vegetable. Obviously, there are some healthier ways to cook potatoes than others. I would say that this would be a healthier way because it's not fried. Potatoes do have some good nutrients in them. They're loaded with vitamin C and potassium, so they're not all bad for you. Yes, they are a little bit starchy, but we're adding it with lots of other vegetables too, so this would be a healthy way to eat them. Okay, so we have about 2½ cups of potatoes, and now we're going to do our butternut squash. A lot of people are really intimidated by this. Have you ever cut a butternut squash before? Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to peel it too. It is butternut squash season, and I know I have spent an entire episode of Live It before talking to you about squash. Squash happens to be my favorite food, so I'll spare you all of the details, but it is a great source of vitamin A, and it's really sweet. We're going to use, again, about 2½ cups. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to peel it. So just have a normal vegetable peeler, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go around the long neck of the squash and start peeling it. But while I'm doing this, I thought we could talk a little bit about yoga. So you're the expert on yoga. I would love to love yoga. It is time consuming though. In your opinion, what are the benefits of yoga?
I think the best thing about yoga is you don't have to be physically fit to start doing it.
Okay.
It meets you where you are. If you can move and breathe, you can start doing yoga.
Okay. That's awesome. What are some of the health benefits as far as like, I know one of the questions I get a lot about yoga is it a workout? What would you say? I mean, I know there are different types of yoga.
There are gentle yoga classes that would focus just on stretching, and then they also have power, more fast movement and cardio with core. So there's a wide variety. You can find any kind of a yoga class that you might be looking for.
So if you're looking for more of a workout, like more of a power yoga, would be a good option, and more like stressing and relaxation, a gentle type of yoga?
I always say that stretching is strengthening.
That's true.
Too. And when you do a full yoga class, you're using muscles that you typically don't use in your day-to-day.
Yeah.
So
I always find that
it's so valuable, and it's so good for our balance, especially as we age. We tend to lose our ability to balance.
Right.
And yoga helps keep that intact.
Right. How about stress reduction? I always notice that people that do yoga they're very zen. They're just so calm. They have like a calming spirit about them, which you do. Like, you totally fit that description. You know, you're just such a calming presence. I feel very calm chatting.
I'm a little nervous, but there's a lot more to yoga than just the poses that you learn in a class. There are 8 limbs to yoga, and one of the limbs is called pranayama, which is the breath that you can often benefit from learning.
Right.
How to breathe and be aware of when you feel you're getting anxious. You can use your breath to relax.
Okay. So you must be really good at doing that.
Well, you know, we all have our moments, but it's good information to have.
Right. So what type of yoga do you generally specialize in instructing?
Today I'm teaching a vinyasa.
Okay.
It's a vinyan class, so it's a flow.
Okay.
And then yin is holding poses for a longer amount of time, 3 to 5 minutes. And the benefit of yin yoga is it gets into the connective tissues. So you're not just working the muscle, you're getting deeper stretches.
Okay. So what would you recommend?
And that's more challenging sometimes.
Sure.
Being still
Absolutely.
can be one of the most challenging things that we have to do.
Absolutely. That takes a lot of muscle
That would be
strength.
really hard for you. Miss, run around the block, check on my dinner, run another lap, check again.
So Jessica and I
She lives across the street from me.
Jessica and I happen to be neighbors. And I was telling her before we got started that I have 2 young kids, which a lot of you know, but to squeeze in my workout, I've been practicing exercises while I cook dinner, which may involve running around the block while something's in the oven, coming back and checking on it, doing some more steps, going out, running around the block again, doing some squats and lunges.
Yes. She's got a lot of energy.
You know what? You do what you have to do to squeeze it in. I think, you know, however, whatever exercise you do, you know, you just have to get it in. A lot of people make excuses for themselves to, you know, not to exercise. I don't have time.
We run around fully depleted and then crash. It's so important that we're able to invest in ourselves.
Absolutely.
If we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else will.
Right. And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people as well. I think that's something that women do. A lot of times we have our families.
Moms and nurses.
Yeah. We like to take care of other people, but I think your own self is the most important person to take care of before anybody else. So eating healthy and exercising are so important for our well-being. All right, so we have our squash, which I diced, and our potatoes. Now we need our zucchini. I'll cut this. I'm going to cut it in half. We're going to cut it in half moons. So I'll take one half, and you can take the other. And we'll just slice it into half moons, kind of thin-ish slices. Zucchini will cook a little bit faster than some of the other vegetables, so they can be a little bit bigger. Although some of these half moons look a little bit larger, so than a bite-sized piece, but oh well. And we'll just toss those in there. Something that I love about soup is you can throw so much into one pot, and you know, you get pretty much everything you need in that one food. It makes great leftovers, and it also freezes really well. So I work with a lot of, you know, people that are cooking for 1 or 2 people. Maybe they had been cooking for a family, and now it's just, you know, they're on their own, or it's just them and their husband, and they struggle with cooking because they're like, I don't want to spend the time to make something and then, you know, have it all go to waste, or be eating it for a week straight, well, this is a great recipe that you could, freeze it in either individual or a couple portion servings and take it out as you need it. So you cook once and eat lots and lots of different times. So I think that's all of our vegetables for this recipe. We're going to add, I guess, some kale and some beans and pasta, but we're going to wait a little bit until the vegetables start to get a little bit tender, especially with the pasta. I like my pasta a little bit al dente or with a little bit of a bite to it. So, I mean, nobody really likes squishy, mushy, anything, especially pasta. So we're going to wait a little while until our vegetables start to get tender before adding that, because it'll only take about 7 minutes for the pasta to cook. Okay, so while that is warming, let me make sure our heat is, I think our heat is as high as it goes. So while that's starting to cook a little bit, you want to generally bring it to a simmer, which I can see that it's starting to simmer a little bit. I'm going to heat it a little bit more. Then I'll turn my heat down and let it cook for about 7 to 10 minutes, and then we'll add the rest of the ingredients. So, but now we're going to get started on our salad. So this salad, it's actually a slaw, and it's using these little tiny things that look like little baby cabbages, which are Brussels sprouts, and everybody in our audience has some Brussels sprouts in front of them. Brussels sprouts are in...
Brussels sprouts for everyone.
Brussels sprouts for everyone. So I care about everybody's health, and I want you to have the benefits of Brussels sprouts, so you get to take some home with you today. I know a lot of people don't like Brussels sprouts because when you cook them, they have this stinky sulfur aroma. Well, we're not going to cook them today, so you don't have that stinky sulfur aroma. I've actually had people that say that they don't like Brussels sprouts try this slaw, and sometimes I don't tell them there's Brussels sprouts in it, and they end up liking it a lot, and I'll give them the recipe, and they're like, oh, those are those little cabbages that I don't like? Yup, they are. Another great way to cook Brussels sprouts, again, if you cook them too long, they will kind of smell stinky and sulfury, which actually those compounds that you smell are actually the ones that are really good for you and can help to prevent cancer and keep your heart healthy and all the good stuff that Brussels sprouts and its cousins in the cruciferous vegetable family can do. So we're going to get started prepping some of our Brussels sprouts. And if there's any brown leaves on the edges, which these look great, you can cut those off. If the stems look pretty tough, you can cut those off too. But I'm going to use that kind of stem as a handle. Now this can get a little bit difficult, but you just basically want to slice it very, very fine to kind of shred it. And be very careful not to cut your fingers with this. You can also use a food processor with a slicing blade to speed up the process, or like a mandolin slicer if you have something like that. That would help. How are yours looking? That looks good.
Mine don't look like yours.
So one strategy for chopping, if you put the tip of your knife into the cutting board and then just kind of rock it backwards. It just helps to guide the knife a little bit more. Having that anchor on the cutting board really makes it go smoothly. So, and if you don't get them quite as fine as you need to, you can always like go back through and give them a little chop. And then I just take the kind of tough end and put it off to the side. So you need a pound of Brussels sprouts for this slaw. So as you can see, we have 2 people chopping, and I've done 2. Jessica's done 1 or 2. It can take some time to chop that, and I know you guys don't want to sit here and watch me chop a pound, so I'm going to do the thing where I snap my fingers.
Television magic.
We have some Brussels sprouts already shredded for us. So Jessica, I'm going to have you get the big bowl, and we're going to put some of ours in here, and then some that are shredded. And if you want to throw yours in there too, you worked so hard on those.
No,
I want to use your pretty slices. Is that one? Oh, so yeah, and sometimes you'll come across that where one looks a little bit buggy, and just Set them aside. They're plants, you know? And actually, sometimes I think it's a good sign if you find a buggy little Brussels sprout, because maybe that means that they didn't spray anything to kill those little buggies. So that's not in you. Okay, so now we're going to add our other ingredients to our salad. We need 1/3 cup each of a dried fruit, which I would recommend cranberries or dried cherries. So yeah, you can dump those all in there. And then 1/3 cup of nuts, which we have sliced almonds, which you can experiment with different nuts. And then 1/3 cup of Parmesan, which I'm going to have you measure this one out, because I think that looks like a little more than, what, 1/3 cup? Perfect. I'll give that a quick stir. Okay, and now we have to make our dressing. I'm going to check on our soup first and see if our vegetables are starting to get tender. I think they could use a little bit longer though. So we'll make our dressing while they're getting tender. So we have our small bowl, and we have all our ingredients measured out already. So the first one in the corner there, that's olive oil, and we have 1/4 cup of good quality extra virgin olive oil. And then the next one, we're going to do that one next. It's apple cider vinegar. You could experiment with different types of vinegar as well. Actually, we did a really similar dressing in a previous Live It. I don't remember which one it was. It was actually the Live It Red, the heart health episode. We did a beet salad with a very similar dressing. So this one, I think we used red wine vinegar in that one. This one we're using apple cider vinegar. It's kind of, apple cider vinegar kind of gives it a fall flavor, in my opinion. So apples would also be a great addition. Chopped apples would be a great addition to this slaw. So then we have some honey to sweeten it up, because it is a honey mustard slaw, and that's only a tablespoon of honey, so it's not a ton of honey. That's good. And then a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Perfect. And then I'll have you add the pepper over there. Why not add the salt too? That's fine. there's just a little bit of salt in there. Looks like a sea salt. And then just whisk that together. See, she pretty much did this all by herself. I didn't even help her, so. I love this dressing. I put it on almost anything. So, yeah, that looks great. Let's see, there's,
Dump?
Yep, go ahead and dump it. Oh, I already have a spoon in there. I was looking for that spoon. And then I'll let you just stir that together. And I'm going to add a couple other things to the soup while we're at it. I almost forgot to add our herbs. I have a teaspoon of dried thyme, a teaspoon of dried oregano, and if you have fresh, you could also use fresh. I would add more like a tablespoon of fresh though. And then I have 2 bay leaves, which I will be honest, I never use bay leaves at home. I don't know why. I've just never gotten around to buying them. And apparently they do add a good flavor. You can leave them out though if you want. It's not going to change it that much. So you do need to remove them though once the soup is cooked. You don't want anybody to eat a bay leaf because they're pretty tough. I'm sure it wouldn't hurt you, but take the bay leaves out. So we have the herbs in there, and then we're going to add 1 can of kidney beans. So I had them already rinse and drain them, or drain and rinse them for me. And the pasta, so I have 3/4 cup of whole grain penne, and to me it looks like that ancient grain variety that we've used in the past that has the quinoa and millet or whatever, but any type of whole grain pasta would be great in here. Again, I'm a big fan of the whole grain variety instead of the white variety, just to help you incorporate more whole grains into your diet, because research continues to show that refined grains like white pasta aren't really that good for us, but the whole grain is. So, okay, and then the last ingredient in our soup is kale, which we have some pretty baby kale here. So we don't even have to chop it really. I'm just going to add it in. It looks like a lot of kale, but it's going to wilt down really nicely. You could also use spinach, baby spinach in here, or you can use the big kale and just chop it up, which we used big kale in last month's Live It Garden Grown. So really any type of green in here works. If you can't find fresh or you don't have fresh, but you have like frozen spinach or frozen kale, that's also a good alternative to add into this. We have a pretty full pot here, so luckily we don't have to add anything else. So everything is in our soup now. We just have to let it simmer.
That is eating the rainbow.
That is eating the rainbow, yeah. So, I mean, and that's a really good point. Some people get in the habit of eating the same fruits and vegetables every day, but all of the fruits and vegetables that we use today have different nutrient benefits. We have dark green leafy vegetables in there, which I guess the Brussels sprouts would also be considered a dark green leafy vegetable. We have bright orange vegetables, which offer tons of other nutrition benefits. Something we haven't talked about yet is the fact that these recipes would be both vegetarian, so these would be vegetarian-friendly recipes. If you want them to be vegan, you would have to leave out the Parmesan in the salad. And also, it's really yummy to sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan in the soup, but if you're vegan, which means no animal products at all, you'd have to leave out the Parmesan. And also actually the honey. Vegans don't eat any honey because bees are animals. So, so I would use maple syrup instead of honey if you are completely vegan. So that's pretty much everything that we have to show you today. We have our beautiful honey mustard slaw, which is so delicious. I mean, you just have to try it and see how delicious it is. And our soup, which is still simmering away. You know, definitely a really healthy, balanced meal that freezes well. The salad is great to take to family gatherings, and I guarantee everybody's going to love it. So thank you so much, Jessica, for joining me today, and thank you
for having me.
Our audience for coming to watch, and our viewers at home for watching as well. And does anybody have any questions before you leave? With the slaw, I probably wouldn't add a meat to the slaw. I would serve it on the side. I think
bacon. Bacon goes with anything.
Actually, our caterer said that she was going to make it and add bacon. So, the soup. I don't know, maybe a little bit of chicken in it. Sausage would probably also be really good in there as well, like a smoked sausage. But I generally try to limit processed meats, but chicken would probably be okay. But I like the vegetarian style best. So it's a great way to incorporate more veggies into your diet, and a good meatless Monday. So that's kind of a big trend in nutrition to do like even if you're not a complete vegetarian, it doesn't mean that some of your meals can't be vegetarian. So yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.